Assalamu alaikum, dear believers. Peace and blessings be upon you. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, I welcome you on behalf of Imam Tariq El-Amin, the resident Imam, and the Taqwa Planning Committee for our Taleems, which is myself, Dr. Aisha El-Amin, Dr. Lionel Allen, and Dr. Gloria Bashir, to Masjid Al-Taqwa's Taleem for today. Please note that this is recorded and it is available on our YouTube channel, Masjid Al-Taqwa YouTube channel. If you do not subscribe, please do. And if you do, please share a link with a friend if you find of value any of our Taleems or our Jumans, inshallah. Today, I am pleased to introduce our guest who really doesn't need introduction, but I'm going to anyway. So I'm welcoming our brother, Gregory Abdullah Mitchell, who is the executive director of CIOGC and is a licensed attorney in the state of Illinois. He served as chairperson for the Leadership Development Institute and is a board member of Masjid Al-Taqwa Chicago, also of American Islamic College and the Southland Ministerial Health Network. He served on many boards and is a member and secretary of the Association for Quranic Understanding and as a board member and secretary for the Universal School. If any of you all know our dear brother Mitchell, you know that he is one of the hardest working men in the community. And we are honored to have him here today to kind of talk about some of the work that he's doing in his leadership with the Council of Islamic Organizations of Greater Chicago. So without further ado, I will hand over the mic to our brother Mitchell for his presentation today.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for that warm introduction. And let me begin. Once again, let me start as a background just to remind everyone that the Council of Islamic Organizations his role is to serve as an umbrella organization to provide a platform for our member organizations to, as well as to be an advocate for interests that are the common interests among the various member organizations. In this particular role, we are involved in civic work in terms of advocating policies at the state level. We do, since the pandemic, we've been involved in administering grants to the state of Illinois, and also as a religious organization involved in interfaith work among the various faith traditions here in Greater Chicago. What I'm here today to speak about is how can Masjid Taqwa best intersect with the council. And the two areas that were in discussions that came up were, well, are there employment opportunities within CIOGC? And then what about any grants through the Zakat Chicago Committee? So with that, let me begin here. Well, as soon as I can get the thing that switches page here, give me a minute there.
Yep, you got it.
All right, there we go. Thank you. Right now, we had went through a period where we were looking for caseworkers. Some of those grants are coming to an end, but inshallah, we'll know better by July if these contracts will be renewed or other ones that we look to provide. Another key role that the council does is to serve as a platform for communication. Oftentimes, this requires writing and a graphic design. So there is a need, and I should add that on here. In addition to graphic designers, content writers are another opportunity. And at the present time, the graphic designer will be on a contract basis, but the content writer, and I could add that to the presentation if you'll make that footnote for yourselves. That's another opportunity that inshallah I see coming. The other thing as I spoke to was the grant writers, and that, I mean, grant caseworkers. And there may be I'll know better in another, say 30 days, if we'll have to be able to take another application or applications for caseworkers. Our objective is to, expand our work in this area, because it's serving not only the needs for food, and primarily we were doing it for the rent, people who are delinquent in their rent. But as those funds dry up, there's other areas that we're looking to move in as working through the state, because primarily the state doesn't do this work. A lot of this work, they depend on nonprofit organizations such as ourselves I'm extending that, to include Masjid Taqwa as a potential grant recipient for some of the work that has to be done. Primarily the work, just to give a little bit background on these grants, primarily the money is used in the delivery of the services, but there is, and like in this case with the grant we were able to hire several people as caseworkers, a case manager, and then there's some contribution to administrative overhead for operating the programs. The other thing, although it's not a paid position, is internships, and more particularly come May 3rd, we're going to be doing the Illinois Muslim Action Day. And it is important if we can get young people in high school, the juniors, seniors, if they would submit their names to be potential candidates to be a page. That's a position where that high school junior or senior would shadow either a state senator or a state representative on May 3rd. The bigger issue, I guess, is really Zakat. The Zakat Chicago is their primary vision is to center local collection and local distribution. And in that, so they don't get involved in much as into foreign distribution. It's about collecting money here and using it here. So as I said, it is the focus here on the local Chicago. It's collected throughout the year, not just annually. And bullet point 3, it's distributed locally through grants awarded to partners, i.e. Local Muslim charitable organizations in support of Zakat eligible projects. Now, a masjid is considered a charitable organization vis-a-vis the Zakat committee. The other thing is what I wanted to quickly go over are some of the areas that the Zakat committee addresses. One is food. They currently support 7 different Muslim operated food pantries throughout Chicago, as well as some suburbs. Another element that they got into last year was preparing food boxes that were distributed during the month of Ramadan. So now, how does that impact Masjid Taqwa? Masjid Taqwa can apply. There's 2 things that are doing or have done and we're looking to continue to do in terms of the lunch program, in terms of actually building out the pantry as a resource. Historically, the Zakat committee would give money for supplies. Now they are extending monies for some infrastructure, just like refrigeration, shelving. In some cases, they're even providing rent. So I think in terms of the plans that we're at Taqwa, how can something be fashioned we can fashion a proposal to submit to the Zakat committee to address some of these capital needs to further build out our pantry, as well as receiving an ongoing support for like the meals program, or even on the pantry. We don't have to rely solely on donations from members. We should, inshallah, because we're serving a need, this would be an eligible project for Zakat Chicago to consider. The other area that is Zakat Chicago also gives out what's called individual assistance. They don't do it through one-on-one applications. They do it through masjids. And probably I know a number of organizations like in Gary, as well as I know Masjid Al Farouk for a period of time was accepting this. And basically it is cash assistance to some individuals who may need it to address emergency needs. The other thing I know we had talked about is education. All right, to the extent that Tucko wants to revive the weekend school. Zakat Chicago does not support the overhead or operation of a school. The way they support is that if you have students within the school who are unable to pay the tuition, they will subsidize and pay that tuition. So the model that has to be looked at is how for those students that cannot afford it, whatever those rates are, and then that money would come back to the masjid as scholarship money for those needy students. Another area that they deal with is they do support entities that operate or address the homeless, or even the homeless, in terms of they provide housing or some of the immediate needs for those that are still on the streets, and there is no housing for them. An example is there's an organization called Shy Care. This is a nonprofit Muslim-ran organization, and they provide hot meals to the homeless. And that support, in support of that particular operation, the Zakat Committee provided funding for them to get a truck, as well as the food supplies that are needed for the preparation of the food. And the other, another area I wanted to focus in on is healthcare. Now, once again, and this is something I'm sharing with Sister Dr. Shabazz, is that they're not, the Zakat Committee is not going to pay for doctors or the equipment and stuff like that. What they will do is, okay, these are your services. Here it is. We have people that come that need services and they can't afford them. So just like with tuition, the Zakat Committee will subsidize the counseling sessions, whatever that person needs for that payment. That, I don't know if people are familiar with the Khalil Center. Khalil Center delivers mental health services. They get some funding through Zakat Chicago. And primarily what it is, that funding, it creates for the lack of a better word, let's say a resources for those that cannot afford the services. They cannot afford the services, i.e. they're Zakat eligible, then they will pay for those services from that fund. So that, then once again, from like I said, the model being they're going to subsidize those people that need it so they can take advantage of the services. One area that does go somewhat outside that is these healthcare training services, particularly in mental health. I know there was the American Muslim Healthcare Professionals. There was Arshia Wajid was the person leading that, and they did these first responder health trainings. So if there are other trainings that can be done that reflect the need and for those in the poor and needy community, that is something that could be developed as a project, and inshallah get the support, funding support from Zakat Chicago. Another area that's just started this year is it's called empowerment. But what does that really mean? If there are young people that are pursuing they're initially looking at it in terms of a certificate, like either anywhere from a 90-day to a year-long certificate program to become technicians, whether they're in the medical field or construction or other related fields, and they are, in quotation, eligible. In other words, they don't have the funds sufficient to pay the tuition. This can be the subject of a Zakat proposal, and the funding being that would be provided is to pay those individuals tuition to secure these employment related certificates, so they can, in essence, become more self-sufficient as an individual. That is some of the services. I can take questions. Let me just hold them to the end. But those are some of the services that have been provided. As I stated, it like for the food, it's going beyond just providing money for that. There is some now infrastructure related to refrigeration, related to shelving, even now related to rent. But if you see the standard model that they're operating on is whatever you're doing, it has to be related to the poor and the needy. That's one of the 8 categories for Zakat eligibility. The Zakat committee does receive some Sadaqah funding, which doesn't have the restrictions on it like Zakat funding, but that's not a lot. That's not a significant portion. But nonetheless, it's about how do you form your a proposal that's directed at this demographic that you currently are serving to get the support to move it forward. The program that comes quickly to my mind, and when we were doing the weekend meals for the people in the neighborhood, and then passing out the food boxes or baskets, all of this, that activity is eligible to receive a Zakat funding to continue it on. Now, they're within the last, say, 10 months, they've migrated to an online system. So now, just like you would have with the federal state government, first you have to be register yourself as an organization eligible to put in bids for funding proposals. It's not a complicated thing, but it is online, and I'll share as copies of that. You would register and whatever your program is, and then fill it out. It's a 6-page document, and it's not complicated. But in the registration process, primarily what is looked for is information about the entity, its board membership, bylaws, a copy of the federal tax ID number, tax exempt letter, and then what services are provided, financial statements. Like it doesn't have. It would, for us, what I would suggest is a balance sheet prepared, a balance sheet income expense statement prepared by somebody like Kasib, and that would be sufficient. And then a summary of the program. What are you proposing? How is it going to? What problem are you addressing? How do you? What is the problem? How are you going to address that? And what measures are you going to have to reflect how what success the particular program has? And then any supporting documentation required from that. I would share with everybody There, currently the Sakat committee has significant funds approaching $1 million, and it needs to be tapped. There's other organizations that are doing this. Inshallah, I'm looking to do a program similar to this, where we'll invite people in, go through the registration process and get you registered, because some people are just not familiar with this. Some people organizations don't even have access to a computer in this day and age. Nonetheless, it is true. So, but there is needs that are being supported by the membership alone, where there is Zakat funding available that inshallah should be looked to be taken advantage of. So that's kind of there, and is the summary of what I see is the work with some of the opportunities. I think the strongest one will be related to the Zakat Chicago Committee and applying for Zakat funding to support the work that Masjid Taqwa is doing, recognizing that the model is focusing in on the poor and needy in terms of the delivery of the services. I see a question in the chat. I can, inshallah, furnish the contact information for Shy Care. I don't know if I have it on me now, but if I do, I'll try to share it in the chat.
There's also a raised hand. If you can unmute your mic and go ahead.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
This is Bob Ismail. What I'm concerned about, I talked to Aki Ma'am Tariq about, a Janaza fund, for the needy, okay? For it to be, a Janaza fund, a Janaza fund for, people that, the needy that, have some, yeah.
But funding, what you're speaking about is the funding for, because the cost of a funeral is rising. What can be done in terms of making a proposal? Currently, there are two projects going on in greater Chicago area. One through the masjid in Harvey, and then another group out towards Bolingbrook, where they purchased, maybe a minimum, I think, I can't remember, Harvey, it's about 30 acres. So what can be done is to set up a program applying for Zakat money for those who be Zakat eligible to pay for at least the plots. And I'm not certain about the funeral expenses, but then that's something that we could, it can be done. And what I'm saying is, just like food, just like the education, the weekend school, the format is, if the individuals are needy, this is the role of the Zakat committee to address those particular needs. So it would be about how to putting a proposal, not how, putting a proposal together, saying that funding to purchase lots through these. I would suggest one of these two groups. Probably the best one is the one out here in Harvey, and so they could be made available to families that cannot afford the cost of a funeral.
Oh, wow. So in other words, why I'm asking that question, I've talked to him about it before. And, I had had been dealing with Master Farouk. They had a program together and then had it for some while now, and they've been, I guess, relatively comfortable with, and what they would tell me when I found the information is that they wouldn't, whatever money was made available is made available to whatever funds that are available with, and that the people that are collect that, what they call them, they had nothing to do with, like the Ali, the funeral director there, he wouldn't have nothing to do with what's going on with how the payment is going to be made. Okay, but the payment would be available to the people. So I was interested in, trying to accrue that position myself and trying to, you know, do it something about what it is you're talking about, because I think this is something to need. It's a need for that, and I think you said it before. You said this is something that's growing. It's a growing need for that to happen. So I would think I would have to do what you're talking about doing, putting a proposal together myself, or work with whoever, you know, has something like this going and what have you. Or do you have anything else to say about that?
Well, first, it's not going to be a personal proposal. It has to go through a tax exempt organization. It would have to be be a proposal through Master Tuckwa.
Okay.
And saying here is the program. There's a growing need. Families cannot afford the expenses of a burial. They don't have the available funding. The only way they can deal with it is they may have to borrow money and get into an interest situation. So what we want to do is to provide a proposal of X number of plots that would be purchased, let's say, through one of these entities. And inshallah, and those entities probably will be making those lots available at a lesser price, or even, I know the cemetery there in Glenwood, whatever it is, let's just say certain amount of lots would be to be proposed. And then if there if an arrangement could be made with Ali about, okay, here for these eligible, here would be the fee, and look for those fundings to be paid, you know, to subsidize or pay for the funeral through some kind of mechanism like that. I mean, the outline, the principles are there. It's just a matter of putting it down and submitting the proposal.
Oh, I got you. But now, see, what I want to say is that what I remember doing, you know, he had it together over there, the guy that was handling it. And what he had, it's like $20 a month, and the other one maybe $10 or something like that, 10 for a man or something 5 for a woman or something like that every month, you know, pay into the fund. Do you think that's possible? That can happen?
I think too, brother, you may be talking about something a little bit different than this zakat piece. And so
but what I'm thinking about is, you know, the idea of funding. Okay, I'm thinking about this in overall. I'm thinking about it overall because of the fact that this is being done, and I wanted it to come to Tuckwa. This is what I'm thinking. I wanted it to come to Master Tuckwa. That's what I had to propose or talk to Aki Ma'am Tariq about, and we was trying to work on how that would happen. So I thought this might be a good idea of putting to good brother Abdul Mittu there.
I think that as Dr. Alameen just mentioned, that's different. Where basically it's almost like charitable funds for those that cannot afford a funeral. Now, to the extent that what I'm hearing you saying, and however it gets modified, is to what extent people can join this, let's say some cooperative, to start paying money in, and so they can build up, let's say, a balance to begin to afford to apply to a funeral at the time of death. That I mean, I know cemeteries do those same kind of things, and how some sort of hybrid could be developed between, like, say, these cemeteries, and that's a topic that needs to be explored for further discussion. But the overall problem you're introducing, addressing the rising cost of funerals for that, and it's posing on Muslim families, inshallah, that these are two different ways that can be addressed, inshallah.
I have another question for you as well. What about so you said Islamic education is one. Is that just for children, or could there be adult classes as well?
If it is Islamic class, let me say, there's been no program like that proposed. Okay, what has been done recently is they've created a scholarship fund for Muslim students who couldn't afford tuition going to a particular school. I can't remember, I think it's Eastern or not Northwestern University, but there was a school ran by Muslims that they created this scholarship fund that if they're needy to help pay their tuition. So now, it depends. I would say the first question would come to mind is, what will be the purpose of this adult education class? Is it empowerment? I mean, employment related? Is it Islamic based, trying to enhance the information? And though it hasn't been done, I would say yes. It would, if there is that process, and then those that are applying lack the monies to pay the actual fees, then we should submit it.
Okay. Thank you. Are there other questions?
Assalamu
Walaikum assalam.
Well, Islam.
Bashir Assad. Gregory, for inquiring minds that need to know, and I'm one of them inquiring minds. The revenue.
I've known Bashir. I've known you long enough. I know you're an inquiring mind. You don't even have to use that as a preamble. Going right into it, okay?
Okay. The funding for these Zakat program, how is the organization funded? Where do these monies come from?
It comes from Muslims throughout Greater Chicago donating to Zakat Chicago.
Okay.
Looking for them to expend those funds received in accordance with the provisions for Zakat.
Okay. Now, are these coming from different masjids? Are they individuals?
Individuals. I mean, in terms of people fulfilling their need to pay their Zakat on an annual basis, they pay that money into this to the committee for that particular purpose.
Okay. All right. So again, because I'm not clear, is this coming from individuals, or is there
Yes.
a setup? It's mostly coming from individuals. Is that what you're saying?
The money comes from individuals. Okay. There may be some occasionally there is money from maybe from a Muslim foundation, but in essence, that's where the money comes. So, now, some member organizations may make in quotations, Zakat donation to the council in furtherance of the work that the council is doing that is aligned with the requirements for Zakat. But primarily the money comes from individuals. That's the largest source where the money comes from.
Okay. Now, are these individuals in the organization, or does the organization reach out and ask individuals, would you fund us? Like others, let's say, well, I listen to public radio. Public radio has a funding resource where their listeners come in and fund it. I'm still trying to get a clarity on the funding mechanism.
I'm not, okay, I need you to help me, because when you say you don't understand the funding, it's people who they say, oh, I got to pay my Zakat, and they'll write a check to Zakat Chicago to be used in accordance with that, and they're relying on the Zakat committee to expend those funds in accordance with the provisions set forth in the Quran.
Okay, so do you have, let's say, a list? Does the organization have a list of people that they reach out to, or do you have some kind of system? Let's say, and I understand that but is that your funding method? Do you have a group of individuals, let's say, that have resources, or are you receiving resources from a greater group of individuals? Let's say people like myself and others, or what is your main area of resources of funding coming from?
If you go to the website, social media accounts, just like many other organizations do, you're promoting the work that is being done and asking people to solicit. There's online facilities to either through the website with the donation links, and those are the things that are utilized by people and submitting funds. Some funding comes in from based on a relationship over the years. There say I regularly give my zakat money to this committee, or a portion of my zakat obligation to this committee, and they pay it. I mean, I don't.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Let me ask you, do you have a operating budget that CIOGC has?
There is a operating budget for the organization as well as the zakat committee.
Okay. Is there some idea of how much money you
right now? But yeah, as I said in the presentation, right now the zakat committee has nearly $1 million available for zakat eligible projects.
Oh, okay, I didn't hear that.
Okay.
Is it
one question? My last question, and I know you're on here to inform us of what's available for Masjid Al Taqwa and some of the programs that we're trying to initiate. Could you give us an example of, let's say, an organization that you know of that like ours that is really utilizing and benefiting from the services that you offer?
There is Gary, the Muslim Center received funding to purchase refrigeration, and their ongoing recipient support for funding the inventory for their food pantry. There's another organization, it's an acronym, but fundamentally they serve Bosnian Muslims on the northwest suburbs, and they received funding for not only the food, but some money available to help them pay the rent of a location that they're using to operating their food pantry out of. Shy Care, which I recommend, was an organization started as a nonprofit organization to service the homeless. Their principle or the basis of their organization is to prepare hot meals in some of the restaurants that donate hot meals and deliver them throughout the city to those that are outdoors. They're in essence really homeless. They receive funding for the meals, as well as they receive funding for the van that they're now using.
I just wrote a quick follow-up on that. Are there limits to the amount that are given or that could be requested from Zakat Chicago?
Technically, there's no limits. There's nothing defined in the rules that said, oh, you can't only go to this. Based on practice, they're going to likely make their initial grants within a certain sum until they develop a working history with the organization, and then they can grow from that particular point in time. The organization like Sanad, which is a food human service organization on the southwest side on West 63rd Street, a little bit down from Iman. I don't recall the exact amount, but I recall they got one check. I know it's for like an installment of the work, and it was $30,000. So I think the thing is, what I would emphasize, regardless of, I want everybody on here to recognize that this is funding, this isn't not just CIOGC, or this is funding from Muslims that said, we want this to be used for zakat purposes. What is important for Masjid Taqwa as an organization has put some proposals together and get some of the funding for the work that is done that is really is eligible for. The funds are there, and that's what needs to be done. The problem, or if I'm going to say if there was a problem, it really focuses in on, because it is zakat, there's a narrow definition about what eligibility based on the 8 provisions set forth in the Quran. I mean, the most significant one is the poor and needy. But I mean, I'm thinking about education when you, the doctor, I mean, when you mentioned education, to the extent this was open to adults, to open or cause them to be more receptive, almost dawah related to Islam. Well, that is one of the categories. So I think what really needs to be done is let's think about ways that programs can be fashioned around these kinds of parameters to secure the funding. And the thing I think, like I said, is the American Muslim Health Professionals. That funding, I mean, when they funded those programs to get the professionals to do the work, with the understanding they're going to reach out to areas and train those people that ordinarily cannot afford these services. But I mean, they receive funding for professionals to do the work. So I think that is, I don't know if that answered your question. I know it kind of went around a couple of times, but I don't see the limit will be based on, I got to get to know you. And as I know you and the reporting and stuff like that, then I would see the potential is there definitely for the funding to be increased. The other thing I would emphasize is that the funding, it needs to be just like, to give you an example, let me use the Salam Wellness Center as a community wellness center as an example. There's a need there for infrastructure. I mean, as Dr. Shroud shared with me, they need to pay malpractice premiums, which is into the tens of thousands of dollars. But the way that the Zakat committee is going to likely look at that is, okay, you serve a needy population. They cannot afford all the services. Okay, it's just like if you went to a hospital. They're going to say, hey, here, if this is going to go be written off as charity because they can't afford it. Well, that's what it is designed. We can't afford as a clinic to write it off. We need to get some funding, and this Zakat funding can be used to do that. That's the exact model that the Khalil Center uses. They apply for money. They've got let's say a certain amount of dollars set aside, and then those dollars are for those that can't afford it. Same thing with Compassionate Care Network, which operates that's up on the north side. What they do is they get funding to help people pay the monthly premium on this insurance program. So I mean, it's how do we look at this? Find a way to make it fall within the parameters and secure, inshallah, the aid. Like when I think about particularly for the food baskets, if more money is needed to purchase that is, to me, that's an easy one. I mean, because it's been done. There's plenty of examples. There's sufficient number of examples that can be done. Oh, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Oh, absolutely. I know Zakat Chicago also helped to fund the Muslim chaplain at UIC. And so that's another piece of the work. And that was at a $25K, support. So, are there any other questions or comments? If there are none, I don't see anyone's mic unmuted. I want to thank you for joining us today. I would like to try to schedule some time with you, probably during the month of Ramadan, where we all, come to the masjid and talk through what some of these might look like and begin to make it a working meeting where we actually work on those proposals. I know we've done drive-by conversations about this already, where we just kind of sit down, talk through those proposals, have our computers out, write them out, and kind of make it a working session so that we can tap into the resources that Allah is providing through Chicago. So inshallah, we'll be able to get that done.
What I'll do is I was my mind was thinking in person. I did print out some forms for that, so we can begin to do that. Because the sooner the better. I mean, this is the opportune time to do it. So inshallah, I look forward to meeting ASAP.
Inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. May Allah bless us with a beautiful Sunday and a beautiful week.
Yeah, I mean,
we begin to move closer to Ramadan. And thank you for your time today. Believers, unmute yourselves and give our brother Mitchell your gratitude for today's telling.
Thank you, brother Mitchell. We definitely appreciate you, man.
Yeah, we do too, yeah, Greg.
Thanks, brother Mitchell.
Thank you so
Thank you so much,
much.
brother Mitchell,
Thank you.
for this needed
Appreciate the
information.
presentation.